So on to something else, holiday pay. I know, Dan says that because I send questions over to Danielle on holiday pay all the time. So you're entitled to holiday pay. Is this above and beyond your maternity leave?
Yeah, of course. Whilst you're off on maternity leave, you accrue holidays as you would if you were working.
Yeah.
That doesn't stop. So even though you are out of work, and some employers have said in the past, well, you're off work, why should you get extra days holiday? That's wrong. You get them over, on top of the leave that you have.
And what if, so you can tag them on as holidays to extend your leave. What if you want to be paid for them? Is that an option?
Yeah, so most women tend to take a proportion of the holidays that they've already accrued in that holiday year before they start the maternity leave. So some people put some on the start of it, and then the maternity leave starts, so they get to spend the majority of the maternity leave with the baby.
Yeah.
Then once the maternity leave comes to an end, and usually you do go into another holiday year, then they tag them onto the end. Okay. So it comes back to what we were saying before. You get this 52 weeks, but then some people then have a month and a half off on annual leave after that.
Afterwards.
If it is that you've accrued all this holiday and you actually just want to get back into work, you don't want to tag it onto the end, then obviously those holidays are there, they're yours, they're a benefit for you. So you need to speak to your employer and just say, I'd rather be paid for them and come back.
If you paid your holidays then, if you decide to be paid, are they paid at your statutory maternity rate, or should they be paid at your previous rate that you were before you went on your mat leave?
Yeah, most people's contracts of employment set out the rate of holiday, but it's usually the basic rate of pay.
Okay.
Or basic rate of salary, and salary is usually defined. So no, your maternity pay wouldn't be taken into consideration. You're paid at your basic rate.
Okay.
So what you would be paid had you not been off on maternity leave. Yeah.
And then one person said, my employer told me that I wasn't entitled to bank holidays paid on top of my maternity allowance.
This is always a tricky one. I think this is the question you always ask. Again, it comes down to your contracts of employment. So if you whilst you are in work, you always have those bank holidays off, and you get the benefit of them. If your contract says you get 20 days plus bank holidays, then you get them.
You get them. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just, you're not losing out because you're on maternity leave. You're not losing out on those days, that benefit that you would get if you worked. It's obviously different in different industry sectors, because some people don't get bank holidays off work, in which case you're asking for something over and above what you would normally get.
But if you normally get them, then you would be entitled to
them. And stand your ground on that point.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then keep in touch days. This is something else that I know from my first mat leave, I didn't take any keep in touch days because personal preference was I was just really happy at home and I wasn't ready to start thinking about work. But actually I think they can be really useful, can't they? And on my second I did take a few, and I had a team away day, and I went in and met a few new team members, and I also went on a day's training and actually found that really useful to help me get back into
Most people
work.
Do. Neither party can insist on them. So they're there, you get up to 10 days, you can take up to 10 days keep in touch days without bringing your maternity leave to an end. So you can work for 10 days. Most employers do tend to insist on them if they're running things such as training courses, like you said. They do tend to say, why don't you come in? Obviously that's a benefit to you as well, so you're not missing out on that training. Likewise, if you think that it would be beneficial for you to go in on a day, team away days are a perfect one, because then you don't miss out on that camaraderie that you build up on days like that.
And it just takes away some of that first day backness when you've not seen people for ages.
Definitely. And it allows you to get to grips with what's going on at work as well, because projects might have moved on, people might have moved on, your job may have changed in certain aspects in terms of, we have computer systems change and things like that. So it allows you to get to grips to it before you then have to go in and hit the ground running. But in coming back to the question, neither party can insist on you going in. Employer can't say you're having a keep in touch day, you're in on this day. Likewise, you can't say I'm having a keep in touch day, I'm coming in on this day.
My employer told me I'd be paid for my keep in touch days, but at my standard maternity rate, statutory maternity rate, as opposed to my usual rate of pay. Where do I stand on that?
Yeah, again, you need to communicate with each other. Usually most people are paid at full rate for keeping in touch days. Goes without saying, you do days pay, you want full pay. But the maternity pay that you would have received for that period, for that day, does get taken into account. So you wouldn't be paid a double whammy almost. You would have paid your maternity pay and your full rate of pay as well.
So one question we had was, I am due to return to work after 9 months and my boss is saying that my part-time role is no longer available, but he's not making me redundant because the job's still there, but it's now a full-time role because the needs of the business have changed. I now need to look for an alternative role. Is this allowed? The changes to role or contract become a bit tricky, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and it all comes down to how long you've had off on maternity leave. So if you've had up to 26 weeks off, or 6 months, it's what's called ordinary maternity leave. If you go over and above that, it's additional maternity leave. So if you return within that first 6 month period, you are entitled to go back into the same job as you were doing with no changes to it. And there's no exception to that. You go back into your job and that's that. If you take an additional maternity leave, then again you're entitled to go back into the same job as you were doing before, unless it's not reasonably practicable for you to do. Bit of a mouthful. Reasonably practicable for you to do so. Situations such as the one that you've just outlined there, obviously she's taken 9 months off on maternity leave. If her job's not there and the employer has got justification as to why that role has changed and evolved over time, then they're well within their rights to say, right, fine, you come back, but we need to find you something else.
So they do still need to find you something else.
Yeah, and it has to be a comparable role to what you were doing before, so it can't be any less favourable than in terms of hours, salary, and position within the business as well.
Okay, so you still have that protection. It's just, it might not be the exact same role that you were doing if it was after.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in relation to that then, what are the rules around redundancy and maternity leave?
Again, this is a tricky one, because while you're on maternity leave, if a redundancy situation arises, then you should be kept fully up to date with what's going on in your place of work. Even if there isn't a redundancy situation, you should be notified of anything that's going to affect your role on your return. This is where a lot of employers tend to fall down in terms of the inquiries that I get, because they just tend to forget about that person that's on maternity leave. They carry out the redundancy process and then they'll think, right, well, we'll deal with her when we come back. If the employer does it correctly, they should obviously notify you at the same time as they notify anyone else that's affected by the redundancy. Make sure you're invited to consultation meetings, make sure that they're held at a time which is good for you with childcare, and the fact that you're off on maternity leave, because where that can fall for some people really, really isn't great. But in terms, the main protection that people have that are off on maternity leave is in relation to suitable alternative roles.
Okay. So
if your employer is making your job redundant and it is a true redundancy situation, so your job's going to be completely taken out of the organisation, then an employer has a duty to look for suitable alternative employment for any affected members of staff. While you're on maternity leave, if a suitable alternative is available, you should be placed in that position over and above any other affected members of staff. Okay. So it's the only case where positive discrimination applies under employment law. So you have a God-given right just to be placed into that position.
Okay. So I know this is a difficult question. It's quite a big question. But I think sometimes it is viewed that maternity or pregnancy discrimination needs to be that an employer is kind of sacks you unfairly. But actually, it isn't quite as straightforward as that, is it? There's loads of cases.
So many forms.
So tell us a bit about that. Like, what are the kind of things that come up or that would count as maternity discrimination?
I think some people tend to go through a course of events thinking, oh, this is just happening just because I'm, just down to the way I'm carrying out my role or the way I'm doing things, and then it's only when something like that occurs that you think, actually, is this as a result of the fact that I'm pregnant or that I'm going to take 12 months off work? So sometimes it can be really subtle things, but just to give you some examples of things that have happened, I had a lady that I spoke to only a couple of weeks ago who had been booked on a training course. It was actually a training course in Paris, which was obviously the nice thing about it, but a training course which was due to last 3 days, which would have helped her extend her role within the business. It would have given her some new skills, allowed her to work with other parts of the organisation that she was employed by. And she came in the day before this training course was due to take to go ahead, and her boss just said, by the way, we've made a decision now, you're not going on the training course, X is going in your place because he's going to be here for the next 12 months and you're not. now that's discrimination.
That's discrimination,
yeah,
isn't it? Like,
because she's been treated less favourably because she's pregnant. And you know, you can't say that just because she's pregnant she doesn't need to go on this training course. She's gonna be there for the next 8 months, 9 months anyway. She will need those you know, those extra skills, etc., and then she's going to come back and need to do it. So obviously that she was suffering a huge detriment as a result of being prevented from going on that training course. So there's things such as that. There's, you know, you're not getting commission because you're not going to be here. There's all sorts of things. Comments that are made, passed over for promotion is a really, really key one. Not being allowed to be placed on big projects is another one. Oh no, you can just do the menial tasks within the office. We need someone on here that's going to be on here for the foreseeable future, and we don't know when you're going off. So as I said, they can be really subtle sometimes.
So we know that 54,000 women a year forced out of their jobs due to pregnancy discrimination, and 77% endure negative or discriminatory treatment. And I've experienced some of that. I've seen some of that happen and know how that can feel. What are your rights? Like, where, if you face discrimination or you feel that you're facing discrimination, what are your rights? And what are the timescales involved? Because I know that this is another big one, isn't it?
Yeah, they are. I mean, as we've said, it can take so many forms. So what's right for you to do to address the problem is often really specific to the situation that you're in at that moment in time. So you may feel that you can approach your boss and say, you know, you may not know you're doing it, but I'm being treated, you know, you're treating me a lot differently because of pregnancy. Since I've become pregnant, you've not allowed me to speak to this customer, you've not allowed me to do this sort of work. So you may be able to approach them informally, and they may not know they've been doing it. They may just be kind of winding you down to going on maternity leave and not knowing that it's making you feel the way that it is. So raise it informally. You've always got the ability to raise a grievance complaint, which is putting something down formally in writing so that your employer then has to address it through meetings. You have to get people involved at a higher level within the business as well to look at those sorts of things. But if you feel that you've exhausted all options internally and that you really can't put up with it anymore and that something needs to be done, then obviously that's what the tribunals are there for. If you feel that you've been treated less favourably because you're pregnant, you've suffering from a pregnancy related illness, or you're looking to take a period of maternity leave or have taken a period of maternity leave, then you're protected under the Equality Act. It's either pregnancy or maternity discrimination. In some cases it even stretches to sex discrimination as well when people return. In terms of timescales, they are really tight, unfortunately, for tribunal cases. You have to raise the matter now with ACAS before you then take the next step to issuing a claim. And you have to notify ACAS that you're thinking about bringing a claim 3 months less 1 day from the last act of discrimination. So we get a lot of problems in this area because you very, very regularly get a course of discriminatory conduct anyway, and it's hard to kind of pinpoint the last act, but it's crucial in terms of a case. And with these cases, a lot of women go over the time limit because things happen while you're pregnant, you then have your baby, and then when you're looking to go back to work, you get hit with that fear factor of, oh God, I've got to go back in the office and face what I was facing beforehand. I should have addressed it then. They're out of time to do it unless something else happens, which then brings it into a continuous act. So you have to notify ACAS. It's a really simple form that you fill out on their website. They get in touch with you. They ask you whether or not you want to get in touch with your employer and see whether or not they can resolve the matter amicably through the ACAS early conciliation period. Some employers just say no straight away to that. You get a number which then gets put in your claim form. So once the ACAS early conciliation period's closed down, your next step is tribunal.
And then the costing comes up as well, doesn't it? Because I know that you were saying to me that lots of women, as well as the time constraints, feel like they can't afford it because they think I'm going to have to pay a solicitor, I'm going to have to pay the courts because you now have to pay the fees. So, but there is some kind of help you can get, isn't there? Yeah,
there is. I mean, the tribunal fees, everyone will have heard about it in the press in terms of them being pretty new, even to us. You know, There is what's called remission.
Right.
So you can apply for remission, and it's all dependent on your circumstances. It's almost like a means test. So it goes on, if you haven't got up to 3 grand's worth of capital, for example, you qualify for remission. If you're on maternity pay, if you're on job seekers allowance, you qualify for remission.
So lots of women that are on maternity leave, on maternity pay, might actually be able to pass that.
The only issue which I will say is that it does take into account your partner's earnings as well.
Okay.
But it's all on disposable capital. So it's all on disposable income.
So it's the money you've got at the end.
Disposable income, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, so actually it could mean that loads more people qualify for remission.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is a barrier. It is unfortunately a barrier. It's real access to justice for some, because even if you're not in work, very often nowadays both parts of the relationship work. So someone's partner's earnings then take them above the threshold, or you've been saving up for the fact that you're going on maternity leave, so you've got above 3 grand. But if, like I said, if you're on maternity leave and you don't tick any of the other boxes, then remission is available.
Okay. And Danielle, I know you do. I know you support the helplines and are a huge part of Pregnant Then Screwed. Yeah. Tell us a bit about Pregnant Then Screwed.
Pregnant Then Screwed is just utterly fantastic. I can't say it without smiling. So it was set up by the fantastic Jolie Braley, and it's a website for people to go on and post their stories. It's become a real community for women who have suffered pregnancy discrimination. If you just read through some of the stories, it makes you feel like you're not alone when this sort of things happen to you. So that's how originally it was set up, for people just to go on, post the stories. But on top of that, now they run a mentor scheme. Yeah. So they've got a bank of women who've already been through a tribunal process, who then you get paired with if you're going through that. So just as
that's massive.
I think it's brilliant. It's a really, really great thing, and I don't think it's offered anywhere else.
Yeah.
They run a legal helpline. It's a free helpline, so you get an hour's worth of free advice if you ring up.
So that's where we were saying at the start, if you've got any unique circumstances that something's come up from this video and you want to find out more, you could ring that legal helpline.
Yeah, of course. Get on the website, the number's there. There's an email address if you don't want to speak to anyone over the telephone. One of the legal advisors will send you an email back. So they're 2 really, really great sources of free advice and free support.
And the last thing I was just going to ask you about is performance improvement plans. I know we had a couple of questions. One person said, I've been put on a performance improvement plan during my pregnancy. Where do I stand with this?
Again, it's always a tricky one, isn't it? Because employers are able to place employees that they think are underperforming on performance improvement plans, because you always want to get the best out of your employees. I suppose while you're pregnant, there's a number of other things that an employer should be considering. So, are you underperforming because of a reason related to your pregnancy? So lots of women these days suffer with terrible morning sickness. So are you underperforming because you're tired, because you don't feel well, because you physically can't do the job between 9 and 11 in the morning because you're tired to the toilet being sick? So there's all those things that they should consider. If it is just a case of your work has slipped, and there's no reason for it other than you're winding down to maternity leave, then of course they are able to pull the reins in and make and say, look, if your performance doesn't improve, there's going to be consequences. But I suppose the underlying current of that is that you shouldn't be treated any less favourably because of your pregnancy. I know I read one of the questions on the Facebook group, which was that the performance improvement plan was due to come to an end as she started maternity leave, or just after she started maternity leave. Now in those cases that would just be extremely unfair, because she wouldn't have been given the full course of usually these are over a course of a month, 2 months. She obviously hadn't been given the full course to properly improve and show them that she was serious about a job and serious about improving her performance at work. So those sorts of things, they would need to look at the PIP that they'd put in place and make sure that it was fair and that she was being treated on par to others.